Sorry about that. I have to remember to switch my phone to airplane mode every time I get a phone call. Of course, from a random number, so it interrupted the video. But anyway, I was just summarizing up the different ways that we can transfer thermal energy. One way is conduction. When your actually material is touching one another, it gets transferred. Another way is convection, where it creates these convection currents. It's the movement of the material. So convection is with the airs, with the liquids, with the gases. So it's not, they don't necessarily have to touch though, so keep that in mind. Another type of way to transfer thermal energy is radiation. This is going to be the transfer of energy by waves moving through space. So light, heat, basically is in the form of waves. So the sun sends radiation to us and we get heated up from the radiation of the sun waves there. You guys can see this on a hot summer day. If you look off into the distance, it almost looks like the black, like the tarred road. Kind of looks like it's radiating. That would be from the radiation being given off from the hot tar there. And if you stand near a grill on a hot summer day, you can see that radiation. I think you guys, if I turn this on, you'll be able to see some radiation. So if I go like this and turn this on, above the flames, you might be able to see in the video, I know I can for sure, just looks kind of like there's heat right here. I'll leave that on for a little bit, but I can see it. I don't know how well it's showing up in the video, but you can definitely see like invisible heat waves right there. So that's radiation as well. So again, you'd be able, oh, actually you can see the radiation here too. On the screen, you can kind of see the little waves there. So it's when it's radiating. All right, so let's talk about the laws of thermodynamics. There's going to be the first law, the second law, and the third law. So let's just go through these real quick. James Prescott Joule studied these different laws of thermodynamics. The first one states this. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy is conserved, which you guys know as well. That's just going to be converted from one form to another. If you put more air inside a bike tire, the temperature inside of it's going to increase. That's because you're making the molecules move faster compared to the air on the outside. The second law of thermodynamics states that energy can flow from colder objects to hotter objects only if work is done on the system. In the previous video, we learned that heat spontaneously goes from a hot object to a cold object. The second law tells us that it can go from a colder to a hotter object if work is done in the system. And that's the basics behind how refrigerators work, air conditioners. So we'll talk about that in another video. A heat engine is this: any device that converts heat into work. The thermal energy is going to be called the waste heat. It's just going to be left out to the surroundings. All right, then the third law states this, that absolute zero cannot be reached. It's impossible to do. We can get really close, but we can't actually get to absolute zero. So in theory, if we got to absolute zero, all molecular motion would stop. And we can't get there. We can get close. Experiments have been done to get really close, but we can't quite get there. So absolute zero would be where all molecular motion stops. So here's a physicist getting really close. We can get to 3 billionths, so that's really, really small, of a Kelvin above absolute zero. So we can get close, but we can't quite get there. So the third law states that absolute zero cannot be reached. So yeah, just do a quick summary, I guess, since we have some time. So the first law of thermodynamics states that energy is conserved. The second law states that energy can flow from colder to hotter objects if work is done on the system. So technically, if I wanted this to flow from here to here, the counter is colder than my hand, I would have to build some sort of heat engine to get it to do that. That's what refrigerators do. And then the third law states that absolute zero cannot be reached. All right, so that wraps up our notes for today. You guys will have a Schoology assignment on 16.2.